My dad was a car guy. He became a car dealer. So in school, summers and holidays, I would kind of piddle around and, that was him teaching me responsibility. And when I got out of school, I was interviewing for jobs and had no intention of being in a dealership. And my dad said, well, while you're interviewing, you need to earn a paycheck. So you will never grow your initiative without the men that you work with. And that from day one has been how I rolled it out. Now, because we still offer a lot of the same things to all of our colleagues, as a group. So no one gets left out. Men are certainly involved, and some of them are. Everyone's always invited to everything. I mean, things that benefit everybody.
If someone has a not so great experience, they're more than willing to share that bad experience, but it takes a much, much better experience for them to get them to share that good experience. Yeah. So you have to be over the top and super memorable to make that kind of a difference. Now we've got a social media fire on our hands.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I rely heavily on those reviews, almost more than the surveys. I'm making sure we're trying to respond to the good ones and the low rated ones, because they're looking at that to determine if they're even going to give us a shot.
Welcome back to the I'm a Car Chick podcast. You already know it's me, Shasta. You guys know me at this point. I snagged a really, really cool guest for you guys today. She and I met last year at Women in Automotive, and then I got a chance to see her on a panel this year at Women in Automotive, and I was like, oh my God, I have to introduce you guys to her. I'm sure a lot of you already know her, but we're going to do it anyways. So without further ado, please welcome Tracey Fields. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You're such a great hype girl. I love that intro.
What's even funnier is knowing that I've only been awake for like an hour.
I think last year when we met, it was over like Hot Fudge Sundays or something like that. Like that's something around like a Hot Fudge Sunday bar or something.
Yes, I think it was like I was doing an introduction on LinkedIn to a bunch of people, and like, if you're actually reading this, comment and tell me your favorite toppings on a Hot Fudge Sunday or something like that.
And then I was like, Shasta, thanks. Now I need to go buy one.
Right? And I'm like, now why am I craving hot fudge all of a sudden?
Exactly.
So I got a chance to know a little bit about you and the amazing work that you're doing with Premier at Women in Automotive. But tell us how you even got in the car business, what brought you here, and what kept you here.
What got me in the car business, I had a little bit of an introduction growing up as a child in and around it. My dad was a car guy, and he became a car dealer. So, in school, summers and holidays, I would kind of piddle around and, that was him teaching me responsibility. And when I got out of school, I was interviewing for jobs because my degree was in design, and I was going to design, commercial buildings with an architect and work with contractors and do all that stuff. And I was interviewing for jobs and had no intention of being in a dealership. And my dad said, well, while you're interviewing, you need to earn a paycheck. So took a job working for my current boss, Troy Duhon, right out of college. And, as I was interviewing, he was saying, hey, you got a little experience already. Let's put you here. Let's put you there. And so it kind of worked out in my favor. So I stopped interviewing because I had a job that was paying me good money. I knew what I was doing. And then he was willing to teach me more. And so it kind of went from there. We, as he grew, I got to grow. And when he went out on his own, he took me with him and 3 other people. And that was about the time that factories started having image compliances where all of the dealerships all Toyotas need to look the same, all the Nissan stores need to look the same. So in order to do that, they would tell the dealers you need to hire a design team, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, hey, don't you have a degree in that? Well, I'm not hiring anybody. You can do that. So I got to head our Toyota store that we built ground up back many moons ago. And so that way I was still doing what I like to do and what I was educated to do. And then I was in an arena I was already comfortable in, getting to learn even more. So it has literally, that's why I stayed, because I got to learn more. I got to do what I like. I was in a familiar setting. I enjoyed the busyness, the craziness, the, never boring, never knowing what's next, arena. And that's why I stayed. And then as he grew, I grew with the company. And at one point we had over 40 dealerships. We have 38 now. And here we are many years later, and I am with his corporate office. Once we got to a certain size, he formed a corporate office. And I was always overseeing my wheelhouses for each of the locations, but we just sort of made it official. And we have some people in a corporate office that we each kind of have, I call them wheelhouses. And we do what we do for all of our locations. So I still build and remodel the dealerships when we buy them or sell them or need to update them. And, but I also had the customer experience, which has also turned into something very different from when I started. So, again, getting to grow and learn. So I think I stayed because it's just not boring and it's amazing. I mean, it's a great industry. I love it. I don't know if I could I guess I could, you can do anything, but I like being in the stores. So I work a lot with vendors in the industry, and I think that's great, but I like being in the middle of all of it. So, yeah. So that's my story. I just kept saying okay to everything he said, do this, do that. And so far, so good.
It worked out. I got to know though, on the architecture and design side, which was your favorite brand to work with on a remodel?
Oh gosh. Probably the ones that have a lot of flex. They're all exciting because they're amazing. Like what you can do with your facility once you meet the image compliance to customize it is amazing. Of course, that's cost involved. So they're all different. We haven't done a luxury brand yet. I'm doing our first luxury one right now, but I haven't gotten into it. And that's Cadillac. And it's so different than the other ones because the luxury brands, they have a certain standard, which is amazing. And all the manufacturers have a certain standard. And what's really cool is now they always had this, but even more so now, they really have the customer experience in their mindset when they're designing the space now, which, yeah, they always met customers' needs before, but now it's like the stuff that I would think about or people in my arena would think about, and so Nissan's very easy to work with. They're all easy to work with. Toyota, I think every time I do one, there's something new added, obviously, and they've updated it. And it's just cool to see what they come out with. I don't know that I have a favorite one. I just like doing it. I just really do. But I am looking forward to doing the Cadillac one because they have a lot of stuff I haven't really implemented yet. So I'm excited to see. And then I like to steal ideas and put some at some and some at others. Like, oh, at Nissan, we did this. Maybe this will work in this store too. So I like all of them.
I imagine Cadillac would be like very borderline, like futuristic to the highest degree of modern, like a lot of technology. Like I would think of them having like charging ports everywhere or the magnetic chargers, things like that, like all over the showroom and things like that. Like that's kind of where
very
I think
sleek, very they call it bone, but like a white ivory color, very sleek, very light, very open. But with rich tones of wood, and then just luxury, luxury seating, just the lighting, just everything. And all manufacturers pay attention to that. They really do. But I'm finding with Cadillac, a lot of times the other OEMs, if you have their finishes, you can use different, suppliers. They want to look a certain way and they want it placed a certain way. And that's fabulous. With Cadillac, it's more, no, you can't use anybody else. We're using this supplier because they do exactly, it's almost like custom stuff. So, not to say you couldn't get that look the same way as other OEMs. I think Cadillac just makes it a little more within certain parameters. So, which is good and bad. It's bad in that I can't, when I'm looking at costs and budgets, I can't shop things, but but I'm looking forward to it, so.
That's really interesting. And I bet that plays into, like, with you being the chief experience officer and making sure the customer experience is top notch. I think back to like customer surveys and things like, where all of these amenities provided to you and how that has to be a part of whenever you do a redesign or a remodel.
Oh, yeah.
How much does that come into play with knowing what the manufacturers are going to be asking on those surveys?
I mean, the manufacturers are all about enhancing what they require you to have. So, the customer's experience is.
This episode is brought to you by Epic BDC, your number one outsourced BDC solution. Learn more about Epic BDC by checking out the link in the bio.
Gosh, it includes everything from, and in the last probably 5 years, with everything becoming more seamless, you have to think that way with everything, whether it's, we have to start thinking about it before they choose to do business with us. Because I also oversee like reviews and online reputation, and I rely heavily on that customer feedback to dictate things for us to change before we sell them a car. The surveys that you get are after we've done it. And so I can take that feedback and apply it, but I've already, I didn't get that information until after the fact. The reviews give me the information before the fact, so I can be preventative. But yeah, the manufacturers do a great job at thinking about customer space and amenities. And then as a dealer, I try to think of things like, okay, how do I level that up? Whether it's in the customer experience, in the customer lounge, if I try to think, if I have to sit there and wait for my car, what's going to make me comfortable? Okay, so I'll have some chairs with plugins, some chairs without plugins, some chairs with trays, some without, because you've got some people who don't want to sit at a chair, regardless how comfortable it is, with a tray for their laptop or their beverage or whatever. They'd rather sit at a desk, a workstation, or a round table with a chair. So I've got to have like different options. Then I've got to have, the plugins, the different kinds of plug-ins, the power stations, it's some, but not all. And then I've got to have, the television. Then I've got to have the kids areas, but I can't have the kids' toys that they can choke on. And I've got to make sure if I have a kids area, it's being sanitized consistently, because I have to think like a parent. And, just everything. Then I have to think of some that are like, I want quiet. So then I have to have a space if optional, if they don't want to be by a television or be by kids and they need to take a call. So we have to have like a quiet lounge, so those are just sort of things where they're not necessarily required, but they're kind of common sense things for your customers that are navigating. And then it's like, okay, I need to have, vending machines are great, but I need to have complimentary beverages. I need to have complimentary bottled water. I need to have complimentary snacks that are individually wrapped, and because that's sanitary, and they won't go stale. And I need to have different kinds and muffins and granola bars, but, not just fresh and out there for people to grab with dirty hands. You got to think of all that, so popcorn machines, if I'm going to do a popcorn machine, I got to make sure it's someone's manning the popcorn machine, and then I don't have people digging in there with their hands. Everything and anything, so there's so many things. You have to think like a mom, like a parent, like a customer, like a business person, and then the environment. I'm somebody who, like, I tell the company we use that cleans the buildings, I'm like, when I walk in a restroom, I want to smell the air freshener. Like, I want it to smell like a nice, not overwhelming, but I want to smell like the air freshener. So I don't smell a restroom or water or a tank or anything. So I'm like, put extra in there, because I think, of a hospital when I walk in, how it's so clean in the restrooms, and, I think of stuff like that. And then I try to implement it. Or people give me ideas and I'm like, that is a great idea. We're doing that, so just anything and everything. So,
and the crazy thing is it never ends. From sales, service to, every department there, like, there's always somewhere to be going back to and trying to figure out, how do we make this better? And I would imagine it takes a lot of feedback from the customers, not just in reviews and not just on the surveys, but, actually talking with the customers and figuring out what they like and don't like. how have you built the process for that customer feedback?
So we have in a few of the stores, or most of the stores, I have like I call a point person, a point team member who kind of oversees the customer experience, and they'll navigate throughout the dealerships kind of throughout the day with customers and check in and just sort of like survey the land to make sure nothing needs to be addressed, or strike up conversation with the customer, kind of like when you go to a restaurant and the manager might come around and go, how is everything, that kind of thing. So we'll try to do that with both the managers and then maybe the customer experience personnel on site, just to get somebody, or can I get you something to drink, or that kind of thing. A lot of it just comes from, too, feedback. Sometimes I'll ask the employees, like when they're at other places, a restaurant, or their wife might have a car from another brand and they were at a competitor, or anywhere, somewhere they receive some really cool customer experience ideas. They're like, oh, let me tell you what happened to me when I went to here. And I'm like, oh, we could do that, so, or they could say, we could do that. What do you think? And I'm like, take it and run with it, So the cool thing is, trying to interact with customers, while we're on there. And then a lot of the times on those reviews or on the surveys, depending on what it is, we'll kind of politely follow up and be like, hey, can you tell us more on this? We really would like to take it, into consideration to improve, so.
Out of super curiosity, because this is something that I've always had an opinion on, but it's been so long since I've worked at a dealership. Do you think that the answers on the survey truly reflect the customer experience?
Not all the time, but sometimes, yes. I think the biggest challenge is perception, and perception can be subjective, and that's what I try to train on. Because what happens is, let's say we get a survey or a review in and it's low rated and I go to address it. The first thing either the manager or the employee involved wants to do is justify why it happened. And I'm like, I get it. And they'll be like, well, I don't understand. And I'll be like, I get it, but this would have been an alternative way to handle it, because you don't know how someone's going to perceive it. And perception's everything. It's reality. So, is it usually accurate? There's some truth to it, kind of like where there's smoke, there's fire. The problem is, the employees view it one way and customers view it another. And generally, what I find is when a customer's not happy, it's because we've skipped some steps. And that happens when this fast-paced environment kicks in and you're going from the next thing to the next thing and the next things. And that's what I remind them. I'm like, you guys, the customer doesn't buy car all day, every day, or service all day, every day like you're doing. So you have to slow it down enough to be thorough, because when you are, they give you a lot of grace when you need flexibility. Like if you want to keep their car longer or the part wasn't in, you keep them, communicated with and updated, and you have that rapport. You're not skipping steps. That's beneficial for everybody, and they feel taken care of. And then in the sales arena, if you don't skip steps, it makes it a special experience for them, but when you're rushing them from like one department to the next, and it's already a long time consuming, process, which shouldn't have to be if you use your time wisely. If you have downtime, use it wisely, go over something or whatever. Those are the kinds of things we try to train on and make them learning moments when we do get the feedback, but I do find it's not very often a customer is completely lying. So, I think often there's truth to it. Yes. And the problem is that they just perceived it two different ways, but it's our job to make sure we try to perceive it in the customer's view and be prepared for it and do it that way, which is why we do the customer experience training. And it's like talking to a wall sometimes, but you figure, it's not going away if you keep it in the forefront.
Well, and out of curiosity, I'm sure this is something you guys track, but since implementing having, that customer experience person at each dealership, how have you seen that affect retention of customers?
It makes a huge difference within the stores, because there's a constant awareness. So the salesmen and the service writers know if they don't do something, there's going to be, there's going to be a conversation about it. So that in turn benefits the employees. That benefits the customers, because the employees are more aware of it. And there's a more of a constant awareness daily. And so naturally that helps with him, customers and customer retention and that type of thing. The stores that have look, there's some stores that don't have a customer experience point person in there, but the GM makes it part of their.
Did you know that there's a monthly newsletter where you can keep in touch with everything that I'm a Car Chick podcast is up to? There is. Check out the show notes below, and you can also follow us on all social media and stay in tune with whatever we're up to.
Their daily process, and they do a great job at it. So the stores that make the customer experience part of everything and not an afterthought, which historically, if you've been in this business a long time, it was always just an afterthought. Oh, we need to hit some CSI scores to stay in the good graces of the factory, but it's not that anymore. And I like using the line that customer experience is the new tiebreaker, because if you don't do it right, the people up the street have the same product you do. And if they do it right, then you're not going to get a chance to deliver a great customer experience anymore. And so, my boss says we all have the same product. It's about the experience we deliver. And it's so true. And that's with everything. So, really trying to shift that culture from people who have done it as long as me and as long as other people where that wasn't always the case. It was like, look, just make gross. We'll worry about the CSI scores later. And that's not the case anymore. So
No.
It's not. Gross no longer forgives all sins. So.
Well, especially in the growing world of social media, like if someone has a not so great experience, they're more than willing to share that bad experience. But it takes a much, much better experience for them to get them to share that good experience. Yeah. So like you have to be over the top and super memorable to make that kind of a difference, or avoid being on the other end of the spectrum where, one thing slipped out of place. Like you said, like somebody didn't follow a process one day. Now we've got a social media fire on our hands.
And that's why I rely heavily on those reviews, almost more than the surveys. I'm making sure we're trying to respond to the good ones and the low rated ones, and because that they're looking at that to determine if they're even going to give us a shot, and that's what I try to remind these team members, like we just recently started having a report that we were tracking to see how many people click on our website and then how many of them click on reviews. Now this is on Google, click on the reviews and then don't do anything after that. So I can say, you see how much these reviews are playing a role? They're not going any further. So we're trying to build a report now where we can at least track that on Google. Because, we always track it for leads and for sales and opportunities, but I'm like, how can I make this tied into the experience? And so last month was the first month I showed something and they were like, wait, what? We had how many people go to our website? Wait, how many didn't go any further? And I said, let me ask you a question. You think they didn't look at your website, then read your reviews and then possibly say, never mind and go to the competitor next door? I just gave them like a hypothetical, but it made it kind of stop. And then I got some phone calls afterwards, like, how do I pull that up for my store? And I was like, let me show you.
Well, and it's something that it's taught us as consumers of other businesses. Like, I think of, I've been having to look for a roofer, and reviews, like being in the car business for so long has taught me like reviews will tell you what you need to know about people. And so like spending my time scouring review sites and looking to see like, are these legitimate good people, or are they, just putting on a good show? And roofing is one of those industries that I would love to never have to replace my roof again.
I just had to do it. Just recently had to do it.
I hate the process so much. Like we got screwed over by 2 different companies that, just wanted to go through the motions and not actually give a crap about us. And I'm like, I hate this. I hate this so much. And it goes back to the experience. Yeah. Like if they would actually take the time to sit down with us and walk us through things, explain things like, this is why this is this way, that's why this is this way. Like it would be a whole lot different, but we're just another tick on the sheet for them. And they don't realize like this is a lot of money for the average American, like to have to pay this to replace the roof. So.
Yeah. The same with a car. It's supposedly like the second biggest investment. And that's what we tell them. We're like, you guys, this is like a huge investment and you sell them all day, every day, but they don't buy them all day, every day. Make it special. This is a big deal, So they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't, my dad bought a car and he's retired now, but he bought a car, and because he was a car guy and he kind of knew him and stuff at the dealership, they just sort of skipped over the whole like active delivery, showing him how to work everything. Well, he's also 77. He's not Mr. Tech Master. So he would get frustrated. I'm like, Dad, you need to go back and have them sit and do that. But they just sort of made an assumption like, oh, he's one of us. And then he doesn't. No, do your job. Yeah.
That same thing happened to me the last time I bought a car, and I bought 2024. And so it was, and I've been driving Kias for as long as I can remember. And we upgraded from a 23 Sportage to a 24 Sorento, and the technology difference that was in that Sorento was wild. And they did the same thing. They just thought, she's been buying Kias for long. She's in the car business. She knows. And we found 8 months after buying it in the glove box, found a digital key like the Teslas have, like a little key card.
Yep.
And I was like, nobody told me about this. What the heck is this? And different settings on the infotainment system. And I'm like, okay, this would have been great.
And you see, that's back to your survey question. That's where they would be at a loss and not understand oh, but I've sold 3 cars to her and she was happy and she's like a 12-year customer and, and they make a lot of assumptions. And so if you were to give your honest review on a survey and then I see it and I go bring it to them, I'm like, why didn't you do this? They'd be like, what are you talking about? We love Shasta. She's bought from us. That's their 3rd car from us, but their assumptions that led to their decisions were, it's like, no, you don't get to just assume because they were a returning customer, you get to cut corners,
Yeah.
But that's where that miscommunication lies in the surveys. It's like, you guys, come on, so.
Well, and what's wild is my husband and I met there, number one, at that dealership. We both worked there and we've been buying cars there for almost 10 years at least. And so what's crazy is every other purchase we made there went, I would say, good. There was nothing bad memorable, nothing great memorable. It was just good. And this last one, when we bought this Sorento, was so bad. They had just undergone a CRM switch. So all of our information from all the times we had bought cars was skewed with this phone number, this email address, this address. It was all wrong. Our paperwork got sent to the wrong place. They never called because they said, oh, we didn't have your phone number. We kept trying to call and I'm like,
oh, come on.
Let me explain something to you. Your general manager, your owner, your BDC manager, your office manager all have my cell phone number.
That means you didn't try to look for her cell phone number.
Yes.
I didn't make an effort. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Didn't try at all. So it was one thing after another that just went like that. And then the whole not getting taught about the vehicle, and then things with oil changes, the experience while you're there for an oil change just going downhill. And I'm like, I'm pretty brand loyal. This is the only dealership within an hour of me that is Kia. But the next time I buy, I'm probably going to be switching brands because this one experience was so bad. And it's terrible that I have that much love built into the dealership. Mm-hmm. I'm that loyal to the brand, that one experience over several good ones in the past.
But that's your most recent one.
Because the most recent one was bad, I would be willing to do an entire brand switch. And as someone in the car business, I think about that often and I'm like, is that fair to them? But I told them about it several times. I gave them a chance to fix it.
Well, look, if you told them about it and they did nothing with it, that's on them. It's kind of like that whole analogy in football, you're only as good as your last game. Look, if you're now we got to win you back, and that's how then that's even more effort. And it's just, I don't want to say it's laziness. I think it's comfort. You get into a comfortable rhythm and then some see other ones shortcut and, you pick up bad habits. So that's where the whole awareness comes back in. If the stores of ours that have general managers that just keep it in the forefront and don't tolerate things, you can tell. And the ones that have customer experience managers in the store, you can tell because they're in front of them, Yep. So yeah, for sure. And then you've got me like a gnat that won't go away, constantly either calling or emailing. And it's so funny because I literally get emailed every single review that is rated below a 4-star they come directly to my email for all 38 locations. So
this episode is brought to you by SCP Agency, your one-stop shop for organic social media. Check them out by clicking the link in the show notes or visit scpagency.com.
I'm getting them all the time. And it's funny because if one of the stores sees it, they get them too. But they know I get them, and I usually will forward them with a comment or a recommendation or a question, like very specific. And it's funny because we have several of the general managers who will shoot me a text or an email and go, I saw it, I'm on it, like before I can even forward it to them. But I'm like, good. That means they're looking at it. It's important. Yeah. They're addressing it, so just the awareness, even if it means Tracey's yapping in your ear, you don't want to hear from Tracey, or why are you calling? Like sometimes I'll call and they go, why are you calling? I'm like, sometimes I call for good things.
Yeah. Maybe I just want to talk to you.
Yes.
Maybe I'm
when I walk in the store, they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I just came to touch base and work, see what I can do to help you. They're like the Grim Reaper or something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So one of the cool things that I wanted to make sure we talked about is what you have done with the Premier Women in Leadership, yes. which is such a cool thing that you have developed to help and empower the women inside of Premier. But I want you to talk about it, what caused you to build that and how it's kind of evolved since you've done it.
I love it. It's not as big as I want it to be, but that's on the agenda. If I could do it full time, I would. But Troy's like, no, you need to do your job I have you employed for. So yeah. So as if things weren't crazy enough, I went, hey, let's do something else and throw that on in the mix too. So I was pretty much doing a lot of observation, like I do often when I have an idea. For about a good year, I just sort of was a sleuth online with LinkedIn and watched what other companies and organizations did for developing women in the industry. And then I thought to myself, it's not that we don't have opportunities for women in Premier, because I thought I can't control the industry, but I can play a role with Premier. I saw that I had a lot of opportunity as a female before any type of, let's push more female development even existed. I worked for a man who gave me a lot of opportunity, regardless if I was male or female. He actually was a young dealer and he liked giving young people opportunities. And I just happened to be the only female among all of them. But I thought to myself, man, I've been able to develop a great career, and we have some real powerhouse females that work for us. And it was sort of dual. My thought was, we have some that are amazing, but they're quiet and they stay in their comfort zone, but I see they probably could do more and they might need a little bit of a nudge, So I thought, I'm going to be that cheerleader, that hype person. And then there were some that had a ton of talent, but didn't know the opportunities that were aware. Because I'm thinking well, if somebody's in accounting, but they're like, I don't want to stay in accounting, I want to learn how to write service. It's I wanted them to know that's available. We'll train you. We'll develop. You can move departments, So I just thought, again, an awareness needs to be put out there of what's available, whether it be, if you want to be the best at what you do and stay in that role, but be the best at it, let's invest in you. If you want to learn something new, we'll do that. And let's let you know what opportunities there are. If you want to, if you have a specific goal and want to end up being at a certain level, let's get you on a career path, because we have career paths. So I just kind of was like, I'm just going to make sure they're all aware. And then second to that, I'm going to be whatever bridge my voice can be for them. I'm going to connect them with who they need to connect to. I'm going to answer questions. I'm going to push them. I'm going to help them feel confident in what they can do. All the things that my mentors did for me, who were all men. So that's kind of where it came from. And at the same time, we didn't have any female GMs. And I was seeing all these awesome female GMs on LinkedIn. So I went to my boss with the idea and I said, have an idea. And I told him, and I said, we don't have any female GMs. And he's like, no, but we've got finance managers and, salespeople and service managers and I'm like, yeah, but we don't have anybody running the store. And I was like, not to say we don't have someone capable, but maybe we need to pay attention. So anyway, told him my idea. And I said, but I only want to do it on one condition. I said, I don't want you to get involved, because he's one of those people that we talked about. He'll come in and with his visionary self and want to take over. And I'm like, I don't want you involved. I want you to support it, but you're not a female in this industry. You never will be. You never know. So he said, okay, no problem. I love it. Do what you want to do. And he gives me total freedom. And so I just was like, all right, let me start putting the word out. And then year over year, it's gained momentum as far as, but not as much as I'd like. Because when you have this many employees, it's hard to get your hands around how to benefit them all in the way they need to. So one of the women that I stalked was Faith London with Hudson Automotive Group, who had started something very similar at Hudson. And they were kind of comparable to us in size. They're a little bit bigger. So I just cold called her and I told her who I was, what I wanted to do, in which she answered some questions. And of course she did. She's amazing. And she basically told me how she has it set up and kind of what things they do, which I aspire to do so much that they're doing. And right now I'm trying to grow it where we're sort of broken up into 5 platforms. I can offer lots of things virtually to all of them. But, there's nothing like in person as well. You have to have both, I think. And the in person, so I'm trying to offer in person trainings and speakers and leadership in each platform, so we can kind of shrink the size and they can grow with how they need, within each. But I'm also trying to get them to come up with their needs. Like, I don't want to tell you what you need. You tell me, what do you need? What do you think you need help with? One platform said, we want a team building, summit or whatever, how to work, with all the departments and then with all the stores. That was one. Another one wanted to had a confidence, like leadership sort of basis. So, and then another one wanted something that was female based, more of like personal development, because I think that personal and professional development kind of go hand in hand. If one is benefiting, it can benefit the other. So I try to keep a mix of that. It's definitely not where it will end up being. I'm continually trying to grow it. I have someone this year that I get to bring on that's going to help me with the website and help me with building the platforms individually a little more. So, but it's mostly just to take the people we have, let them know the opportunities that are available to them. And if you want to look into them, we're going to support you tremendously. It's also not at all an anti-men thing, much like women in automotive. You will never, grow your initiative without the men that you work with being supportive and giving their ideas and being involved. And that from day one has been how I rolled it out. This is not an anti-men. Nobody wants special treatment. I just want you all to, have the same opportunities and see the great talent that we have and the skill sets that they bring to work alongside of you. Now, because we still offer a lot of the same things to all of our colleagues, as a group. So no one gets left out. Men are certainly involved, and some of them are. Everyone's always invited to everything. We do financial workshops. I mean, like things that benefit everybody. So the cool thing, though, is now we have 2 female general managers in our company. And they're crushing it. We have 33% female managers in our group, which tends to be on the higher side. And like I said, I think we do a good job with it. I just think that much like the career paths that we offer for all of our employees, I think there are certain trainings and career paths and skills to develop that women really excel at that we needed to throw in that mix. And then I feel like women are great mentors as well. Men are fabulous mentors. But, if you can offer both to people and to grow.
You've made it this far, and I have to say thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to rate the show, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and of course on all social media channels. Light it up.
I think it's just more beneficial,
So I'm curious, how how, with the additional focus on women and the Premier Women in Leadership, how has that impacted your employee retention across the stores?
I think that it has added to the definitely long tenured employees. It certainly created an awareness quickly. It kind of became a recruiting tool as well. Like, we have a couple stores that have told me that they got some really rock star employees from other ones by talking about what we offer employees. And then in addition, Premier Women in Leadership, both, showing there's opportunity for growth and, through the company and through Premier Women in Leadership. So it's definitely playing a role. I've gotten that feedback, which is another reason I really want to build the website and enhance it and, make it available to anybody who wants to learn about it. So as a retention tool, yes. As a recruiting tool, yes. But that's not why I started it. I started it as a retention tool, but for sure. But I mostly started it because I was like, I had a couple people in mind that worked with me that I thought, man, they are amazing. And no one knows how amazing they are except me and the people that work directly with them. And so, and I was like, and they need to know how much untapped talent we have. And thankfully, I've been able, the couple that I had in my mind, I've been able to help bring out in the forefront and, push them out of their comfort zone. And it's amazing to see that they flourish. So sometimes people just need, like I said on the panel, you just need a voice. And if you don't have one, borrow somebody else's, borrow mine, borrow somebody else who can connect you,
I love that so much. And also on the retention kind of side of it, what do you see differently now that you have a little bit of more of a scope? What do you see on the stores that have the female GMs as opposed to the ones with the male GMs? Is there any difference since getting the male GM as far as customer retention or anything along those lines, employee retention, that has kind of surprised you?
Well, it doesn't surprise me though. The stores with the female leadership have good customer experience. I feel like one of the things that plays into that, not to say that some of the male GMs don't do it too, but I'm just referring to the female leader-led stores. When I approach them about something that needs to either change or they need to put some attention to maybe consider changing, it gets done. It doesn't get put on a list and forgotten about. They're like, yeah, okay, they get it. So I think that, they're able to see a perspective of just getting it done. And, we have men that do the same. There have some general managers I'll call and it gets done. Then there's some that think they know everything they need to know. But on the female-led stores, I find that the employees, where ours are, in speaking just about those two stores, I find employees are, the culture is one where people like to come to work. I think that they feel appreciated. And from a corporate standpoint, when you ask them to do something, I don't know that I have an issue with any of it getting done, at least where I'm concerned. So, and I can say the same about other stores led by men as well, but speaking only to the women one. And then, there's some stores that have female, like general sales managers or female sales managers and finance directors. And I find that it's just attention to detail is there, that's something I see.
It's something that's a natural skill that we have. It's
a strong skill.
Play on it. Yeah.
It's not about the play on it. And I think that helps balance. Like if you're one of two sales managers or one of a group of managers, it helps balance out that team. If that's your strong skill set and not their strong skill, you balance each other out, so that works well.
Yeah. Are all of your guys' stores in a similar demographic? Are you guys all in Louisiana or all over the place?
Girl, we have Louisiana, which is the New Orleans area, where I am. Very, what you see is what you get. Very friendly, very open. And then we've got Texas, and Texas is Texas. And I love going there and visiting. Then we have the Midwest, Kansas City and Kansas and Missouri. And that's a whole different sort of vibe. But I enjoy going to all of them. They all have their own strengths. And you walk out there and everybody's like, loves everybody, everybody's family. And they're like, this one knows this one. It's awesome. Then we've got a few in Virginia, and then we've got California, which California is its own world.
Yeah.
We've got some in Southern Cal and Northern Cal, and that, California is different in a lot of ways. Everything down to building dealerships there, they're not the most flexible with how they do things, and their expectations, the customer expectations I find in those markets are huge. They're very different. They're very environmentally conscious, and all that's great. But I do find that the California customers' expectations are different than.
Yeah.
There's some sense of like there's just you have to work harder at keeping those customers, in my opinion, because they just don't have. It's a very fast-paced sort of environment, and they just don't have the time to deal with things that slow them down. Which I get. That makes total sense, but we got to be on top of it.
Yeah, they think at a much faster pace, and their patience is much thinner.
Yes.
But I think there's also more dealerships per capita.
Yes, that's why I'm saying they have so many options. With California, we really had to, learn a lot going to California. And I was getting surveys back about how their dog didn't get offered, a bowl of water or something like that. And I was like, okay. So in California, you can bring your dog everywhere. You can't do that in all the other markets. So that was new to me. And I'm like, all right, I had to now incorporate little dog areas when I'm building the stores for customers who bring their dogs to take outside and sit with their dog. And that was just lack of not knowing or lack of knowledge, okay. So new on the expectation list.
As a dog owner, I don't know that that's something I ever even thought of, but
same, and certainly not one to rate me low as a business on. So, even though we did your service and you were happy with that, but my dog wasn't offered any water. I was like, okay. So that really has nothing to do with your car, but okay. So again, that goes back to expectations, and they constantly are changing. But yeah, so we're in 5 different markets, 5 different areas.
That's cool. I didn't know you guys were in Kansas City. I'm in Joplin, so it's 2.5 hours away from me.
Kansas City, Kansas. And then we have a cluster of we're right in the Legends area. And then we're building a new Hyundai store right there right now. And then we have them all around Missouri, St. Joe, Smithville, Savannah, Paola, all around there.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri is a good market, I feel like, for car dealers.
I love going out there because it's funny at corporate, when we all go to the Midwest dealerships and we come back, it's you just feel so loved. You walk in those stores and the whole vibe and culture of the dealerships and the people that work there, they're just just salt of the earth and just genuine and friendly, and they make you feel so welcome. And we'll walk in there and we're you can just feel that the employees are happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that plays a role with your customers, the whole relational thing. But you just feel good going in there. I'm I'm going to the Kansas stores, so.
It's just, it's a family feeling for sure.
It is. It's amazing. That's a good way to describe it, because that's where how customers kind of feel, or that's kind of the feedback, how they feel. They're the ones who are making videos talking about being transparent and, making fun of the typical car dealer ways, and making a joke, making light about it, and just presenting those types of videos, just to be we're not going to do that to you. Come on in, kind of. So they're funny.
I love it. Okay. I have a dying question.
Yeah.
That is not even relevant to the conversation we've been having.
Stay tuned for part 2.
It's nuts. And then women were separated from their babies when they evacuated the hospitals, and they're like, the mom would be in one city and the baby would be in another. Like, oh my. And one of the nurses or somebody took it upon herself to take them with her when she evacuated them to keep those embryos alive. And that's how our whole nonprofit started. One of our dealerships, Troy let the National Guard use to be like a drive-through distribution for like MREs and water and stuff like that. They were given out to people. Even some of our employees that didn't evacuate stayed and they went and volunteered. It was amazing. They had some factories who were like, if you're listed as an employee, send us your bank account and we'll put money in it.
Like, I mean, that's the last thing you want to have to worry about at that time is not only where am I going to live, but how am I going to make money? And
the man lost 1,200 cars in Katrina 20 years ago and lost everything. And here we are. We grew times 3, times 4. So yeah, learning a lot along the way.